First, can you just tell us your initial reaction to the decision today?
Well, we're obviously pleased with the decision that the jury made. It's been 5 long years since all this first started, and it's a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So it was very satisfying to get the jury's verdict.
Normally, we sometimes hear a victim impact statement in cases like this, and we didn't hear one this time. Maybe a little bit from Tommy Boswell, but it seems like you are the advocates for Evelyn. What do you have to say about that?
That's a complicated question, to say the least. Obviously, there are a lot of emotions in this case. Even within the Boswell family. I mean, you all saw Tommy testify. I mean, his daughter was the defendant. His granddaughter was the victim in this case. A lot of emotions. Same thing with Angela. So, but we're fortunate, and I'd be remiss without talking about the incredible work that was done by law enforcement in this case. And, as a community, could not be prouder to have those folks who really, from the get-go, from the time she was reported missing, who've really been her biggest advocates during these 5 years, to see, ultimately what we realized here in the courtroom today, which was justice for Evelyn.
Even with that exhaustive investigation, all of the interviews, all of the forensic evidence that was gathered, Ms. Massengill even acknowledged we still may never know exactly what happened. Did you have to rely on the jurors' common sense and taking might be a shred of doubt and separating that from what reasonable doubt is in this case?
To some extent. I mean, I think always coming from a prosecutor, it's I guess easy to say, well, we think you should decide the case this way. But this really was, a textbook example of just excellent police work. For us to be able to come into the courtroom, to be able to present a case where you really don't have direct evidence. I mean, we didn't have a confession. We didn't have a video of the crime being committed. You had to rely on a lot of circumstantial evidence, and as we argued during closing argument, you're going to have to use your common sense to fill in some of those gaps that were there. So yes.
General Massengill, during closing, you talked about the baby Evelyn mattered. Where'd you come up with that?
Because it's the truth. She mattered and she deserved to live, and I wanted the jury to know that.
How hard was it working on this case and seeing all those images, the baby in the trash can?
It's very difficult, and it's difficult to show something like that to a jury or to the public, but it's important that we show everyone what Megan Boswell did. It's difficult, but we're willing to do it to find justice.
Can you talk about the impact that this community has had these questions for 5 years now and finally had answers?
Right, and I think that was difficult. Unfortunately, we made some very purposeful decisions as we were prosecuting the case, which I think a lot of people kind of took umbrage with. We did not release much about this case on purpose because we wanted to try the case here in Sullivan County. And I think that caused a lot of heartburn among people not to have those answers, not to know that information about the case. And we, kind of told them just to be patient because we wanted to try the case in the courtroom. And we feel like that's what we did.
Was there a piece of evidence or something that you think really sealed the deal for the jurors on making this decision?
I don't know that there was any one singular piece of evidence. I think the difficult thing in this case really is those interviews with Megan and the fact that her story kept changing, kept shifting, and there were lots of little things that kind of ruled other things out, but I think ultimately it was a lot of her own words that were her undoing in this case.
And what about how the baby was found? That is something that I think has hit home, and you could tell from day one, from the images you showed, jurors were crying, she was crying.
Right.
What do you want to talk about with that?
I mean, it's disturbing. I mean, it truly is. And we made a decision in trying this case because there were a lot of charges. Obviously, the lies and stuff that she was telling the jury we didn't want the focus of the case to be on that. I mean, to us, that was the easy kind of low-hanging fruit, so to speak. We wanted the focus to be on the homicide. We wanted it to be on Evelyn and what happened to her, and that was why we kind of hit the jury right in the face right out of the gate. And so, like I said, that was strategy on our part as far as how we kind of put the trial together. We wanted them to, right from the get-go, know that this was a homicide case. This wasn't just somebody lied to the police case.
Megan will be eligible for parole when she's about 69 years old. As a prosecutor team, you asked for life without the possibility of parole. What is your take now that the jury decided to give her a chance?
What answer?
We will continue to fight to keep her in custody until, for her natural life if possible.
Can she face more years than that though with the other charges that she received?
She can. The judge will still have to sentence her on all the false report counts, the tampering, the abuse of a corpse, the failure to report charge. So, in theory, he could run those consecutive, and he could stack that time on top of what she's already received for the homicide.
Is that something you all get to urge him to do in
We
your
do.
sentencing report?
We do. There'll be a sentencing report, and then we'll have a sentencing hearing. That's what's set at the end of May, and then we'll go from there. Both sides will have a chance to argue what her sentence should be on those.
Do you know how many years she looks at for those additional charges too?
Yes, the false reports should be looking at 2 to 4 years on those. The tampering charge will be 3 to 6, and I think the abuse of a corpse and the failure to report are both 1 to 2 years on those.
I know that law enforcement, even one of the agents or one of the people who testified said that everyone else was ruled out, including Hunter Wood, but clearly, whether it was in the community or certainly on the defense's strategy, that was an if that they wanted to put out there. How important were those text messages that you guys were able to put up, showing what was going on, what apparently was going on, at least in Hunter Wood's mind, as this child was now known to be missing?
Right. You want to comment?
I think they're very, very important. I don't know how you can overcome that, in my mind. When we found those, I don't know if there's an explanation, for them.
Was there anything else y'all want us to know? It's been a very long, almost 2 weeks.
Well, like I said before, I mean, I think if the community ever had any doubt about how hard law enforcement works, I hope they had a chance to see that in action in this trial, because like I said, we really could not have asked for any more diligent, exhausting efforts than what we saw from our local law enforcement here at Sullivan County Sheriff's Office, TBI, FBI. I mean, it truly was a coordinated effort.
Is this the first time in a while too? I know the judge mentioned it, but for you all, that a jury has been sequestered?
It was. I don't know that I was part of the last one, but I know it's been about 20 years since the last time we sequestered the jury. So.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Thank you
guys.
all.